Hi, this is Hamada Zahawi, founder and CEO of Red Track Admissions, an admissions consulting company. Now, if you've never been to our channel before, get ready for an unfiltered account of exactly how to get into your top choice program, how to secure funding, and how to succeed both as a student and as a professional. And if you haven't done so already, hit us up on the big red button below and subscribe to get the latest content from Right Track Admissions, as well as connect with us on our social media handles conveniently located below this video. Now, what are we going to talk about today? Today I'm going to get personal with you guys. Basically, we're going to talk about how to overcome a horrible LSAT score and still get into a top 10 program. And I'm going to give you all the takeaways, the tips, the hacks of how I did this personally, speaking about my own experience, as well as the call to action to get you on the right track to success. So wait till the end of the video to get all this content, and let's begin. Okay. Let me give you a quick background. When I applied to law school, and it was a while back, I had great grades. I have to be honest. I worked really, really hard in college to do as well as I possibly could. So when it came time for the LSAT, I didn't think it was going to be a major hindrance, though I remembered I had done very poorly in the SATs, and yet I was more optimistic that I could do better in the LSAT. Well, my optimism was wrong. I took the LSAT not once, not twice, but 3 times. All scoring, either I canceled one score and the other 2 scores I scored in the mid 150s or thereabouts. I still held on to hope that I can get into a top choice program because I really, really felt that this is where I belong and this is where I deserve to go, given my background, my future goals, and especially my grades from undergrad. So what did I do? I worked really, really hard on my application. I worked really, really hard on the recommenders. I worked hard on gaining the experiences. I worked hard on making sure that my applications were submitted in time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's kick it off. In terms of the application itself, okay, that is probably the most important part of your whole profile and what you're going to submit to the school, especially if you have weaknesses in your LSAT or in your GPA or both or so forth. It's really going to have to come down to how strong your application is going to be. And that comes down to the story you tell. It has to be authentic. It has to be personal, right? And it really has to describe through all parts of the application, each and every facet of who you are as an applicant, okay? Now the personal statement, and we're going to get into this in other videos that we're going to produce for you guys here. So make sure to look in some of our past materials and our other materials. With a personal statement, you want to start off with a bang. Think about your life like a movie and how are you going to captivate the audience, right? The admissions committee. How are you going to grab their attention? And think of your life like a movie. The classic way I describe it is imagine you have an action sequence like we see in the movies, and it kind of focuses on you, and somehow the audience is enthralled. They're drawn into your account, your statement, your narrative, right? And then you provide some context, a little context, and then it fades to black. And then it goes back to the beginning, kind of where it all started. And then it develops back to that singular point that the whole action sequence started from, okay? And then going into how the next step for you will be law, why that law school, and then you conclude the whole statement, bringing it back to the beginning. So that's a real deep dive into the personal statement. Again, intro that grabs our attention. Paragraph 2 will really be about your background. Paragraph 3 is about your academics or your professional and what you've been doing. Paragraph 4, why law makes sense for you. And you don't have to spell out, I want to become a lawyer, but just have the information in there, right? That draws them into making that plausible move, that continuum between who you are, what you've done, and what you want to do, and why law plays a role within that. Then talk about that specific law school, and then you conclude it, okay? So the application, especially the personal statement, is so, so important. Another part of the application that's mission critical is the addendum. I really banked on my addendum to get me across the goal line, right? I made a plausible, discussion, explanation, not excuses, explanation, talking about how poorly I've done in standardized exams, but yet how well I've done in the actual academic setting. And I submitted that to all the universities. And that's, I think, was a huge helping hand in getting me over the hump in terms of law school, in terms of getting into a top program. The diversity statement, another key component, we'll talk about that in other videos, but these form the core of your application, and it's so, so important that you really spend the time on it. I must have spent about 3, 4, 5 months drawing out my story, drawing out the addendum, drawing out each and every part of my application to really make it a winner, to really stand out as an applicant. Okay, so the first part of how to overcome a poor LSAT score, a poor GPA, or poor huge dent in your academic record or challenge is to have a phenomenal application. Another part of that whole equation, of course, is your recommenders and making sure that you have great recommendations. I'll say this quickly. With the recommendations, you want to make sure that you pick winners, okay? You find the winners that are going to cheer for you. You essentially massage them, right? And guide them to be able to put together the best letter of recommendation for you, because the schools really do focus a lot on recommendations. So you want to make sure that your recommendations are on point and don't leave them to the last minute, because otherwise the person that's writing it for you, and typically if you're going to law school, you should be getting 2 letters of recommendation that are professional. If you want a third, Hail Mary, put in a third that could be professional or volunteer. But chances are some law schools will not read it. I still did it, right? And so what I did personally is I went into my professor's office, provided them with my transcript, provided them with my draft personal statement, provided them with basically the grades that I got in that class and what really stood out in that class. And that helped them put together a very sound and memorable and unique letter of recommendation for me, which I actually went back to those same recommenders and used their recommendations for other programs that I applied to. So make sure you spend the time finding the cheerleaders for you, massaging them to be able to write the best letter for you. And that takes time, and you want to give them a heads up to do that, okay? Applying early, right? You don't want to leave your application to the last minute. When I started my application process, I started in July, okay? And in July, I basically got my applications out and was able to I got my applications ready. And so I was able to start farming them out to the different schools around, I would say October. I sent out my first application, and I did them sequentially, October through the beginning of November. I think my last one went out towards around Thanksgiving. And that really gave me a big push and a big kind of helping hand. And finally, another component that's really important is the experiences that you have, right? Now, some of the experiences, by the time you start applying, you won't have time. But if you have a little time, I, for example, spent the time really getting professional experience. I worked at like one of the top law firms as a law clerk. I did a bunch of volunteer stuff after I graduated, and obviously during during undergrad, I really focused on leadership activities and things that really made me stand out. And what the schools are going to be looking for those kind of like, so to speak, pre-law activities are things that really talk about your leadership, community and compassion, speaking about what kind of experiences you have, showing a sense of responsibility. And if there's a way to really kind of showcase your writing skills, your oratory skills, and so forth, your analytical skills, that comes out obviously in your grades, but also if you can kind of flesh them out in your activities, that's going to be mission critical. Okay, so let's quickly recap. You want to have an outstanding application, a phenomenal personal statement that's unique to you, that's authentic, that really describes who you are and is personal, an addendum that provides explanations, not excuses, for any issues that you had, a fantastic diversity statement, and a resume. So you want to make sure your application is bulletproof, can really help you kind of overcome those challenges. Getting those great letters of recommendation from cheerleaders that really will push hard and advocate for you, and making sure that you ask them well ahead of time. Making sure that you have the experiences and you've garnered those experiences, whether personal, professional, leadership, and so forth, that can really provide you with the materials you need to put together a fantastic application and make you a great candidate. And finally, apply early. Get those applications in between September and November, and definitely before Thanksgiving, because that will really help you kind of give you that heads up and that advantage when it comes into the rolling admissions cycle. And as your call to action, I really want you to think of 10 fundamental points that really make you a standout candidate for law school. Whether it's your personal experiences and really personal leadership experiences, think about that one moment that you had, that pivotal issue that you faced. Think about that volunteer experience. Put those 10 points down in a Google Doc, and then from there, you'll be able to establish that anchor story that would really lead the whole charge of your narrative. I hope you found this helpful. Let us know if we can help you in any way. In the meantime, please subscribe to our content. And I want you, for sure, to stay safe, stay sane, and stay connected.